Imagine you open up the Sunday paper or you look online and you find an ad for an automobile, a 2-year-old Corvette, perfect condition, kept in the garage, less than 10,000 miles, pampered by the owner, $2,000. The first thing that probably comes to your mind is that, wait, something's got to be wrong with this. There's no way anybody would sell a $50,000 car for only $2,000. And most people probably wouldn't even call on it. Well, it turns out that only 2 people called on the car. The first one that called and went to see the car bought a perfect 2-year-old Corvette for $2,000. How is that possible? Well, as it turns out, one of the things that we look at with price is that price is an indicator of what we perceive as quality. In the absence of information, we use price as a determinant as to which product is going to be the best. But in this case, somebody took a chance, called on the car, and got a great car. Turns out that the person that owned the car had run off with the secretary to the Bahamas, ran out of money, and called his wife to asking her to sell his car and send him the money. Well, she did. So price is important. We can define price as the money or other considerations exchanged for the ownership or use of a product or service. So if we think about that as being the price, imagine that you are staying at this resort, 5 days, beautiful oceanfront resort, and you're there and you're having a great time. Everything's, you've already paid for your room and everything, you just got to pay for your incidentals. Well, if that's the case, with that in mind, tell me, how much would you be willing to pay for a soft drink while laying on the beach at this resort? Some of you are going to think, $2, $4, maybe even $5 to have your drink given to you. But what if 500 yards down the beach, there's this guy selling the same thing? How much are you willing to pay now? I'm going to guess a lot less. What changed? Part of it is what we're thinking. Part of it is the mode that our brains are in. We expect to pay a lot for a soft drink or anything else when we're staying at a nice resort, and from here we're expecting to pay very little from this guy. If we look at the 4 P's of the marketing mix, we see the product, the place, and the promotion. These all represent cost to the organization. It's price that is the only one that is generating revenue. Now, the other thing about price, it's also the easiest element in the marketing mix to change. I mean, if you think about a product, how hard is it? How quickly can you change a product? Not very. Same thing with where you sell your product. Same thing for how you promote or advertise your product. But price can be changed instantly. And this is where marketers kind of get into, I think, a little trouble, is that they will change their price a little bit more often than they should. Any discussion of price, we must go back to our value chart. If you remember, value is basically the difference between the benefits that you receive and the price that you are paying for a product. Well, I can adjust price in many ways. I can adjust price lower, which is going to give you more value. I can also increase benefits. I can add some kind of benefit to you, keeping the price the same, and value has also been increased. I could go through and kind of do a little bit of both. I could add, let's say, 10 units to benefits and only 5 units to price. Value is again changed. So understanding that, keeping that in mind as we go through and talk about what price represents. It is said that pricing is an art, a game played for high stakes. For marketing strategists, it's the moment of truth. All of marketing comes into focus in the pricing decision. If you think about pricing and how important it is to set the right price, think about what happens when you set a price. Pricing decisions determine the type of customers and also the competitors that your firm attracts. And a single pricing error can effectively nullify all other marketing mix activities. You can get a great product, you can advertise it well, you can get it in the right spot, but if you price it wrong, all bets are off. Price is also very critical for another reason. Think about this, a firm that has an 8% profit margin. If they can increase their price by 1% without any change in the quantity demanded or how many units that they sell, their profit margin will go up to 12.5%. Because if you think about it, that 1% price increase is all profit. So that's totally changing the profit margin of the firm. Let's look at the other end. What if we reduce price? Well, a couple of researchers at the University of Chicago went to a retailer in the Chicagoland area called Dominick's, and they wanted to conduct an experiment. They split the stores in half, trying to balance them between sales, demographics, and things like this, just so there would be equality on both sides. And they used a product of butter. Now, the product was basically selling for 89 cents, but what they wanted to look at is what happens if we decrease price. So for half the stores, they decreased the price to 71 cents. Now, if you could imagine that if I drop price by 18 cents, then I'm generally going to have some type of positive effect, which is going to be a 66% increase. But they took it one step further. What if we drop that price 2 more pennies? What if we drop it to 69 cents? What happens then? Well, as you can imagine, price decrease actually led to a higher level of increase of 222%. It's amazing, though, if you look at just 2 pennies, what makes a difference? Part of it is a psychology. Part of it is what we as consumers have been, I guess, trained to look at with a pricing, and especially the last number price endings. So just a 2-cent change got us back into that, I guess, what we were expecting, a 9 ending, and it had a much greater increase in sales. One thing that marketers have to be aware of is that the pricing environment is changing. Buyers now have access to so much information about what price is being charged that it's very difficult to unbalance the asymmetry of information. For example, you've got your name your own price, such as Priceline and some of the others that you can just go in and say, I'm willing to pay this, and they find somebody that's willing to sell you a product for that. You can do instant price comparisons in stores. I'm sure all of us have pulled out our smartphone, went in a store shopping for something to find out how much we could buy it for Amazon. And there's also the aspect of getting products for free. Free is a very magical number. We look at free as some type of price that is too hard to beat. And as we're going to see in a moment, it really is at times. Other changing factors in price are sites such as Quibids. Quibids is a place where you bid on products that are on sale, and you bid a penny at a time. And for example, you see this resale price for an iPad, $5.99. Quibid sold it for $22.53. But if we look at what the numbers actually represent, Quibid actually sold that product for $1,351. How'd that work? It's pretty simple. When you sign up for Quibids, you buy bids, and every bid, which is a penny increment, costs you 60 cents. You choose the product, you make a bid on that product, and of course place bids and win, but so is everybody else. And luckily they give you the option that, hey, you didn't win, we're going to let you discount the price of that product at full retail based on what your bids were. So if you placed 100 bids at 60 cents each, they're $60 they're going to discount off of that iPad. One of the reasons I love pricing so much is looking at the psychological influence that prices can have on people. One of the things, and we talked about this at the opening of the lecture, is talking about the Corvette, is that price is a quality inference. We use price as a determinant of how good a product is. But there's also the aspect of a reference price. If you think about, for example, DiGiorno's frozen pizza at the supermarket versus Domino's or Papa John's. And then you also can throw in like Papa Murphy's, where you go pick up a pizza that's freshly made but not cooked. All of those are priced in accordance to each other. If you could imagine, let's say that a large pepperoni pizza from Papa John's, $10 you can get on sale. Well, what would happen if DiGiorno tried to price their products at $10 also? They wouldn't sell very many. So again, they're using what else is out there as a comparison for what their prices they're going to charge. Then you also have the aspect of price endings. I mean, $1.99. I mean, if you look at most of the products we see in retail stores, they end in 99 cents or 97 cents, somewhere along that line, because it does matter. I mean, if you think about it, something that costs $99.99 is a heck of a lot less expensive than $100. In our mind, it really is. Some of the other aspects of psychology, if you've gone to a high-end restaurant recently, you've noticed that most of their prices are going to end in even amounts. No 99 cents here. And they've even taken to not even putting a dollar sign, they've just putting 24. Well, that kind of is one of those things that signifies it's a quality establishment. We also have the aspect, if you look at $1,199, your mind, when you're seeing this price, is actually saying out that amount. So your mind is saying $1,199 and no cents. But if you just put $11.99, your mind is only saying $11.99. Much shorter, much easier, and we think it's less expensive. That's what all the research is showing us. We can also put a price on something and then give you a limit to how many you can buy. That also influences the consumer's price, the consumer's mind as to how they're going to react to that offer. You walk into the store and you see cans of peas at 25 cents each, you buy one, but you see limit 5, you're generally going to buy 5 of them. Earlier we talked about the price of free and how that influences. Well, there was a couple of researchers, one guy named Dan Ariely, very famous behavioral economist, went through and did a research study, and he offered students the choice. They could have a Hershey Kiss for a penny, or they could have a Lindt truffle for 15 cents. Now, if you look at how much a Hershey Kiss is worth, if you buy them in the bag and divide it by, the purchase price by how many are in there, you're probably looking at around 3 cents. But you buy a Lindt truffle and you're looking about 50 cents. So if we look at these two prices, a penny for Hershey Kiss versus it's a regular $3 or 3 cent product, that's not much of a discount. But the Lindt truffle going from 50 cents to 15 cents, that's a big discount. And if given the choice, 73% chose the Lindt truffle. Big deal. It's a lot of money, big discount. But they took it one step further. They went through now and they said, okay, what if I give you the Hershey Kiss for free or the Lindt truffle for 14 cents? Again, it's the exact same relationship. I just cut everything by a penny. Well, here, things changed dramatically. 69% now chose the Hershey Kiss. Free is very powerful. When we're developing pricing strategies as marketers, we have to first go through and develop, what's the objective that we want to achieve with our price. We have to estimate how much demand is going to be for the product at a given price. What are our costs going to be? We need to evaluate the marketing environment, such as our competitors, and also looking at the financial environment or the economic environment. We have to choose our specific pricing strategy and then develop our pricing tactics. Now in this next section, we're just going to talk about some generalities of pricing from a strategic perspective. And before we get there though, I want to just talk a little bit about profit and the profit formula. Now profit's very easy to understand. It's whatever you have left after you've sold your product and paid for it. So basically profit is equal to the revenue that you gain minus the cost that you incur. Well, revenue can be broken down again into how much you're selling your product for times how many units you sold. Cost can also be broken down into fixed cost, which are costs that do not change no matter what, and variable cost, which are costs that change based on how many units you produce. Now, break-even analysis is a pretty simple process that determines the number of units that a firm must sell in order to cover all their cost. Sales above this level will generate a profit, while sales below this will lead to a loss. But that one point where cost and revenue are equal are basically considered the break-even point. Now the formula for break-even looks something like this. As an example of how it would be used, imagine that you sell pizzas and your fixed cost each year are $300,000. Remember that fixed costs stay the same no matter how many pizzas you sell. These costs could be your rent, your payroll, things like this. Now the ingredients for your pizza cost, your variable costs in other words, are about $4 each, and you sell each pizza for $10. In this example, you are earning $6 for every pizza you sell. So how many pizzas would you need to break even is the basic problem. So here we have $300,000 are our fixed cost, and we're making $6 on each pizza. So $300,000 divided by 6 gives us we need to sell 500,000 pizzas. It's a lot of pizzas, but you still get the point. When you're setting price for the first time, there's a couple of things you have to keep in mind. First, you need to really understand your brand. You need to calculate the benefits of that brand delivers to the buyer. Consider the competition. You must consider your fixed, variable, and also sunk costs, which are costs that money you've already spent, such as any money you've spent on research and development. You have to look at what's the minimum price I can charge, which would be most likely your variable cost, and what's the maximum price that I could charge. You want to somewhere in between there is where you're going to find that optimized price, and which is going to help you optimize your profits. One of the things to keep in mind also is that reducing price is much easier than raising price due to a mistake. And does the price that you're charging match the image that you want your brand to convey? And always remember, price is never final, but you can't keep changing it back and forth over and over again. This also comes into play when we're thinking about a new innovation pricing. Are we looking at doing something that's going to have a value pricing effect, which is going to be a lower than expected price, or are we going to go with a premium pricing? A lot of that depends on who the target market is, what the product is, and how much consumers are willing to pay. But if we think about the benefits that a customer gets and receives from their product, think about if you need a new water heater. I mean, you can get a water tank, the traditional water tank that water heater that we have in our homes, between $350 and $500, something like this. Tankless models, though, on demand, they generally will save you about $75 a year in energy. What's the benefit? Well, part of the benefit is not only the savings that you're going to gain, but it's also going to be the ability to have water on demand and not having to wait for water to heat up or never running out of hot water. How much more are you willing to pay for this? Double, triple the price? In some cases, that's what it's going to take. Other aspects we can look at is in the area of something that's kind of really, I guess, a boring product, but a thermostat for your home. You have the Nest thermostat for about $250 to $300 now. This is connected to the internet. You can change the temperature of your house via a smartphone. You have the Honeywell for $350 that basically does the same thing, does it a little bit differently. It's supposed to be a little bit higher quality in their mind. Then you have just the traditional Lux thermostat that you kind of have to set yourself for $30. How much are you willing to pay for that extra benefit of being able to connect your house, your heating system, to the web? Other new innovation pricing tactics are basically one we call skimming. Price skimming is where a product's price is set high upon its introduction and then lowered over time. This is done so to generate as much profit as possible before competitors enter the market. Innovators and early adopters are likely to pay a higher price for the latest, coolest product. The key here is that prices will fall over time as competitors enter the market. Now you look at this cartoon and you might get a little chuckle. That would never happen to me. It's amazing though, they have found instances where products and brands have doubled their price and sold more units. There was a watch manufacturer that was selling his price for about $2,600, and he was only selling, I think it was about 8,000 to 9,000 units a year. They raised the price to over $4,000, and all of a sudden they were selling 15,000 to 18,000 units a year. What happened? Well, at the $2,500 range, there was a lot of competition. When they went to $4,000, they were kind of in a middle gap between many of the other products that were out there, and so they actually sold more units. Now, I guess the opposite of skimming pricing is what we use with penetration pricing. And when penetration pricing is used, the product or service is offered at a lower price compared to its competition. And although the product may be sufficiently appealing to command a higher price, a marketer might prefer to set a lower price so that it is quick to generate sales volume, gain market penetration very easily, and upscale their production. One of the things, if you look back to when the Nintendo Wii entered the market, they came in at a price that was lower than cost for their game unit. The reason why, even though they were losing money on every one of the game units, they knew that if they could produce and sell enough units, that their actual production costs would fall. Not only that, but they were also looking at the more people that have our game unit, the more games we're going to sell, the more controllers we're going to sell, all of these type things are going to come into play. Well, that's all I want to talk about this lecture on pricing. Next, we're going to be looking at advertising and promotion.